Okay, so this is very exciting because this is the first video of Throwing the Net Open Hangouts, chatting with some interesting folk who are going to be sharing skills and techniques to help us develop trust in ourselves and learn how to flourish in a busy world. And today we're going to be hanging out with Rupta, um, who grew up in a spiritual community and from early childhood has spent has spent the last 36 years of her life exploring different spiritual and therapeutic processes. She's looked at them for her own personal growth, and and for working with people. She's learned various approaches, everything from hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, nonviolent communication, somatic experiencing, enneagram, mindfulness meditation, and various other techniques that she incorporates into her workshops. And we'll be giving more details of those, where you can find out about those at the end of the chat. And she's currently writing her holistic counselor thesis on inner guidance, and she joins us from Rome. Hi, Rupta.
Hi. That was nice, Laura. Thank you.
Phew. And so we're going to be looking today at resourcing, and this is something that you've shared with me and has been very valuable to me in my life. And I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about what is resourcing.
Gosh, in simple terms, it's been used to relax the nervous system. Resourcing is something we refer to as when we regulate our nervous system, and by that I mean when we are in overwhelmed, too much, too soon, too fast. Resourcing is something that we use as a tool to bring ourselves back into a state of more relaxed, peaceful, awareness. And it's a technique in particular, but we call it resourcing. That's the short answer.
And can you give sort of an example of what exactly it is, so people can understand what it means? How, for example, so we've called this how to deal with anxiety. So if someone is feeling unnerved, worried, has a lot of responsibilities, feeling a bit overwhelmed, what might you say to them to help them through what is the resource process?
Yes, sure. Well, in many of our daily lives, that many of us are faced with that overwhelm, stress, as a lot of us refer to it, and what, of course, the byproduct of that is, when it's not addressed, is anxiety, fear, panic attacks. We get all sorts of symptoms from not dealing with our nervous system, not regulating ourselves. And we use resourcing as a way to regulate that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. What in many ways is something that it can do by itself, but what's happened over the years in our Western way of living today is that we override it so much, we overwhelm ourselves so much that we get so easily overloaded in our system. And one of the ways we use resourcing, or how we approach resourcing, is working with, for example, an individual. I might start the session with a resourcing, which might look something like, before we talk about the overwhelm, before we talk about the stress at work and the challenges you're facing, or maybe the traumas that you have right now, let's look at what brings you peace or serenity or relaxation, and that's what we call an outer resource. So the person, I might ask them, what brings you joy? And the person might say, I love walking in nature. I say, aha, you like walking in nature, and what is it about nature that you like? And they say, well, where I live, there's this amazing forest, and there's a lake, and there's swans on there. And I go, wow. And what else do you see when you're at that forest? Well, many colors in the autumn, and then the birds are coming, and I can hear the sounds and the smells, and as they continue in this, essentially it's almost like a kinesthetic experience using imagery. I might stop them and say, and as you're talking about this resource, what do you notice right now in your body? Just to pause it for a moment. and they track. As I talk about it, I feel slightly expanded here. I don't feel that tension that I felt maybe when I came in, or there's a warmth in my belly. So it's almost using that visual. It's one way of bringing it in, by the way, that visual means of what brings them joy, taking them into that experience, and noticing how their system can relax. When I'm in the forest, I have space. I can relax. Yeah, there's no overwhelm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one way we use resourcing. It's an outer resource.
Yeah. So it's basically that it's something, and for the benefit of those who may not be able to speak to someone like you or someone else immediately, is it, how would you advise people use it in their everyday lives? First of all, like, is it something that we can use in our everyday lives? And two, how might someone do it? So if they don't have you guiding them through the process, how could they do it themselves?
It's a good question. I certainly appreciate this one-on-one sessions because it allows the individual to address whatever in particular that they're facing, the challenge, and get that sort of soundboard back from the other person, and can help them, guide them in resourcing. If one was to take this tool and use it just from, let's say, our conversation, I might say that take a moment, maybe in the morning when you're at your most peaceful times. For some people, it's at the end of the day, and write down a few things. What resources you? For some people, it's their dog. I know from myself. I can be with my dog, and the moment he's here, everything relaxes. I feel everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Or for other people, it's their children. For other people, it's nature. For other people, it can be a hobby of some sort. I try a little bit to keep it off of parents and partners because the dynamic it's quite a dance sometimes. It's not always harmonious. And so I try to keep it where it's more in the unconditional state, if possible, yeah? When we love our children unconditionally, or nature brings us so much, or animals bring us so much. And use that, and it's such a great value. We forget that when we're in that stressful time, maybe you're in your car and you're in traffic and you're just feeling that pressure of overwhelm, that just bringing in a resource can actually really change your state. It can just take you out of that fixed place here and change your whole nervous system by putting that focus somewhere else, what brings you joy, for example. Yeah. It's a practice, though, and it's like a muscle.
Yeah. So ideally, basically, people will have experience of using it with someone like yourself who's trained, but maybe it's also something, whether waking up in the morning or in the evening, that if they were to write it down and then start using that just in their everyday, whether it's driving or on the tube, because I have to say, from when you introduced it to me, I have insomnia sometimes, so I found that at nighttime I think I start resourcing and it helps me go back to sleep. And I also just wanted to end on one point, is that you mentioned to me how, as well as you can have, because I think this is quite interesting, and I've been using it throughout my day actually, is that as well as using places that make us feel calmer, and these people, but we can also use people we may not know, who may not even be alive, but who may be inspiring to us.
Yes.
And I think that's awesome, because it's just, and I just want you to say a little bit about that, just to give people it's a broad thing, really. There's no real boundary on who you can have, can you? It's kind of letting your mind open to the possibility of being supported by anyone, in a way.
Yes. And the beauty about this is that when we bring in these different elements, whether it's from nature or people or the animal kingdom, what it does for us, how our body responds. The body never lies, So I think we spoke, and I said, for me was the Dalai Lama, because he represents forgiveness and compassion for me. And when I would place him just in my mind's eye behind me, something happened, and I could feel something shifting in my body. It took that constricted, nervous place inside this part that I was feeling, and it made me feel his support and love just by the mind's eye of feeling his presence behind me. That was the sort of the power of what resourcing does. This is what we call outer resources, nature and so on. And just to quickly touch on what inner resources is, we might work in a session about where do you feel safe in your body. Not everybody feels relaxed in their solar plexus, or they feel constricted in their chest. But someone might say, well, in my belly I feel very warm and expanded. And from there I feel really grounded, or in my legs I feel very strong and sturdy. And that's what we call an inner resource. And the beauty of that is we can carry that as we walk through the hallways of our office. Yeah, I feel my legs taking me where I need to go. Yeah, and then that's an inner resource, which gives you inner support. And that's, a lot of us are missing that inner support. So it's also a very powerful way of moving and playing with resources.
There's so much to talk about and go into, but I think for now that what I want to say is that if anyone who might like to get in contact with you directly, if they're interested in working with you, maybe you could share how they can contact you. Also, I have to explain that as this is the first Google Hangout, some of the tech sides aren't quite there yet. So forgive me for having to give hourly the URL for Rupta's website, which is www.divinemeetings.com, which in case you can't see it. You can always come to throwingthenetopen.com and contact me, and I can give you Rupta's details. But I really recommend you check out her work. She runs workshops all around the world, and is a real gift to have in one's life. And Rupta, if there's any other contact details you want to say, please say it. Please mention.
No, that's it. It's perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura. It was a pleasure talking with you. You are a delight. Thank you.
You're so cool. Thank you so much, Rupta. Thank you. Big kiss.
Big kiss.
Bye.
Bye.